Today on Drawbli,
Ben is painting upside down.
hey, I'm Ben.
And I'm Abby.
And we're self-taught artists documenting our drawing adventures because art is better when shared with friends.
So click that subscribe button if you're new around here.
And don't forget to check out our guidebook on daily drawing linked below. Abby, I'm painting upside down.
I love it.
Have you ever done this before?
I have.
So I saw a recent video talking about this technique, and I have seen this myself. And, there's a lot of benefits of working this way. Typically, it helps disassociate the fact that this is a face from your brain because your brain is so good at recognizing faces.
I know, I'm like, I see the face, it's just upside down.
Right. But when I was working on this, it was genuinely kind of hurting my head. Like I could feel parts of my brain straining that have not strained before.
Oh my gosh, so fun.
Or strained very often. A lot of my brain parts don't strain very often. So the video in particular that I saw, if I can find it, I will put a link to it down in the description, was talking about how this is a great technique for activating the right side of your brain. And I am not a big believer in left side, right side of your brain in terms of like, I'm that type of person, or I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say.
Like putting
here.
yourself in a box of saying like, I'm this kind of person.
Yeah, like I'm left-brained, I'm right-brained, I'm creative, I'm not creative, I'm analytical, etc. I don't think that, I'm not a huge believer in that kind of thing in general. But I did find this to be a difficult practice, and I also found it to be a very helpful practice to focus on different things. One thing that I really got to focus in on this exercise was just working on and choosing some interesting colors. This image I felt like actually had some very difficult colors for me to recognize and pick out. So I kind of started a little sloppy and haphazardly trying to like mix paint on my canvas and actually choose more paint from that. In particular, like the face with all these bright oranges that are like really
very bright orange.
Right,
yeah.
it's like super saturated, and I was trying to find that and how bright these are. Like there's a lot of contrast in this image as well. This is very difficult, very unique practice, and I actually think that I would have been able to do this better if it was just right side up from the start. Normally this kind of exercise is recommended for people that are having trouble with proportions and making faces. Normally this is like, here's a way to have an easier time doing that, because a lot of people that are having trouble are people that think they know what a face looks like, and then you try to do it and you actually don't, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's great to look at for like relationships between distances between two parts of the face.
For figuring out proportions and that kind of thing. But I actually found it harder to do this upside down. It felt very awkward and difficult, and I eventually get to a point where I flip it right side up and continue to work on it. And at that point, I found it much easier to do after I flipped it right side up.
Yeah.
Because I've sculpted and painted a lot of faces right side up, so I'm very familiar with the proportions and things like that. But this was super fun to do. I would highly recommend it. It did, flex muscles that I don't think I use very often, so very helpful in general.
Yeah, I like it. It looks really cool. I like how the upside down picture causes me to see shapes that I don't think I'd normally pick out, like the overall face and neck being a teardrop shape that extends a little bit to the right, and how the nose with the nasolabial folds looks like an eagle kind of flying.
Yeah, like I think it is good for that kind of thing, so it really helps disassociate that part of your brain that's like, face, I see a face, it's a face.
It helps me see the chin too a little differently as more of that like dimensional shape that it is, where you have like the round part of the chin, then a fold going back towards the lip, and then the lip itself wrapping back around, which is something that I don't normally feel like I see as accurately on an right side up image.
Yeah, I think this exercise would be very helpful for you then, based on just those pieces of information that you mentioned there. Yeah, for someone like me who's very familiar with the anatomical form and proportions of the face, I'm like, yes, I do know that these areas are here. But even for me, it can be very helpful for recognizing these areas. And I don't think I did that amazing on this either way. I think because I started so sloppy and haphazardly with this painting that I made it a little harder for myself. Maybe if I would have started with a sketch initially, it might have gone a little better. But I still enjoyed working on this, whether or not the final product turned into anything spectacular or not.
And your interpretation of it is still very fun to look at because the bright colors are all really well delineated from one another versus being as kind of, muddy and not, I don't want to say muddy and blended in the reference, but, more obviously realism there. Whereas you have like more cut out shapes, which is very satisfying to your brain to observe.
I have found in the past that if I work the way I'm working right now and kind of try to find the colors along the way, I end up creating a lot more work for myself rather than if I had just chosen a color from the beginning and kind of stuck with it and made everything else work with that color that I chose. Because you can pick an orangish color and make everything else make that orange look brighter by choosing darker things than that. Like, you don't have to, and here we go, going right side up and now starting to work on this more. Like, I find that things get more muddy and messy the more I work on kind of this trying to discover the colors along the way sort of idea.
Yeah, where you're just adding a little bit by little bit on top of each other, and that does tend to become kind of muddy in the end. I think I wish I was better about starting with one big base color and only very gently adding in the little delineations and changes. This is a great face though to work on to practice different planes and dimensional parts of a face because it's certainly not smooth.
No, it's got a lot going on, and not just in the face, like in the accessories and the hair and the hat and everything. There was a lot. There was a lot with this image. It was, I didn't know what to expect going into this, but it was really enjoyable to do.
Absolutely. It's so, this is just an interesting person.
Yeah, I think I just typed pirate into Pinterest and searched through a bunch of images.
And it was like, there's a pirate.
Yeah, like whenever I search anything like that, something generic, 90% of the images are just like AI generated images, and I'm like, well, this isn't exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So often I have to type in the word like cosplay to get something more akin to what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Or like photography is often a good one, but sometimes that even results in a lot of AI stuff. So it just depends what you're looking for in terms of reference. In general, I would say Pinterest is pretty good for reference, though.
Yeah. And it is unfortunate how much, AI has really muddied the pools of reference and any kind of search out there for images for anything specific.
Yeah, but not that like in all honesty, I think that AI images can be great for reference to help you lean into a particular style or even help you figure out new ideas or techniques, because AI, much like people, is an amalgamation of many different images or many different styles even. So it can be helpful for finding different things. I've been known to use AI for reference in the past, and I probably will again in the future. So teach their own.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've never used AI for references, but maybe I should try that sometime.
Or even just use other artists' artwork for reference. Use it as inspiration rather than directly copying with like a master's study or something.
Well, this is a really cool study, I gotta say. This turned out really cool. I really like looking at this.
And if you want to turn out really cool, click that like and subscribe button and check out our guidebook linked below.
Share your work on Instagram with #Drawbli because drawing is better with friends.
And this is the part where we say
goodbye,
Goomba.
Ben, if you had to be a pirate, would you be this intense of a pirate?
I would be more of like a Buggy the Clown pirate. I would be a silly pirate.
Oh, you'd be a very silly pirate.
Yeah.
Very good point.